I grabbed my coffee cup and whatever other things I had, compiled, banana peel and empty thing of fruit cup and all sorts of other things. And I went to the garbage can to throw it away, and on the bulletin board, they have all sorts of announcements on the bulletin board, community announcements on the bulletin board in Starbucks. And there was an announcement for citywide T-ball for children, 4 to 6 years old or 4 to 8 years old or something like that. And the announcement read, and this was hilarious, everybody plays, everybody wins. Okay? And I basically finished my preparation for the sermon. And as I'm preparing and as my mind is soaked in these truths, everything I see becomes something that I learn from. So I'm reading this and I think, everybody plays, everybody wins. The teacher absolutely bursts that bubble. Okay, I mean, he punctures that balloon, that pipe dream. This is what he's saying. Don't waste your time and energy believing this. Give up on this idealistic pipe dream. This is his point. As you get older, you realize that while everybody plays, nobody wins. We all lose. That might sound good. Everybody plays, everybody wins. I actually walked away going, that's impossible. I mean, how does everybody win? I mean, there are two teams playing, and everybody's playing, and they're all hitting the ball and running the bases, unless, even if every game ends in a tie, that's not a win. It means both teams tied. So I'm asking myself, how is that even, I'm a philosopher, remember, so I'm going, how is that even logically possible? It's a logical impossibility to conclude that when two teams are competing, everybody wins, unless you're redefining what winning is. And maybe, winning is just playing the game. Just playing the game. You've won. We fill our children's minds with these things that are so far from the truth because we're so afraid that they're going to encounter the dark reality of life under the sun like we've encountered it, and we do everything we can to protect them. And the way we protect them is by feeding them things that aren't true. And then we wonder why they become disenchanted when they get to a certain age and realize, you know what? Everybody does play, but nobody wins. In life without God, in life under the sun, everybody loses. Everybody loses. And this is what he's saying. Don't believe the hype. It's an idealistic pipe dream. It's not true. Remember, in the days of your youth, remember when you are young. Start life believing that everybody loses. Don't wait till you're old to believe this. Believe it now while you're young, because if you do, you'll save yourself from countless debilitating disappointments. That's what he's saying. I mean, he likens growing old to an oncoming storm in verses 1 and 2. Then to an old and decaying house in verses 3 through 5. And then the destruction of precious objects in verses 6 and 7. He doesn't paint a pretty picture of what it means to get old. And he's saying, remember when you're young, just how daunting and despairing and dark life really is. Because if you can maintain this perspective when you're young, refusing to believe the pipe dream that everybody plays and everybody wins, you will save yourself as you get older from countless debilitating disappointments, because sooner or later you're going to find out that getting old is like an oncoming storm, an old and decaying house, the destruction of precious objects. And if you've already believed when you're young that that's the way it is in this dark, despairing life without God, you'll save yourself. You see where he's going with this? You'll save yourself. You'll save yourself from countless debilitating disappointments if you can maintain this perspective when you're young. If you believe the lie that you can find meaning and happiness, your anxiety will increase as you get older. This is what he's saying. It's like that scene in Willy Wonka, not the Johnny Depp version, the Gene Wilder version, which is much better, in my opinion. It's the one I remember when I was a kid, and remember Charlie Bucket and Grandpa Joe. If you don't know the story, shame on you. Charlie Bucket gets the golden ticket, the last one, and gets a tour with a bunch of other kids through the chocolate factory, and he and Grandpa Joe go into this one room with the rest of the children and their parents and Willy Wonka, and they come into the room where fizzy lifting drink, is being, worked on. And apparently it's this soda that Willy Wonka's working on. It hasn't been perfected yet, but it's this soda that if you drink it, you are able to fly. And so all the kids say, well, can we have a little bit of it? And he says, no, it's not perfected yet. You can't do it. And so he said, let's go to the next room. So they go to the next room, but Charlie Bucket and Grandpa Joe stay behind. And Grandpa Joe says, let's try some. And Charlie Bucket says, really, Grandpa Joe? I mean, he just said not to. He says, let's try some. So they start drinking it. And sure enough, they start floating and flying. And they're having this great time floating and flying. I mean, they've never been off the ground before, and they're floating and they're flying, and they're going up and up and up, and then as they start getting toward the top, they realize that there is this huge fan on the ceiling. Huge fan on the ceiling. It's made out of metal and it's very sharp, and they're heading straight for it, and they're trying to sort of swim in the air downward. But they realize they can't. They keep going higher and higher and higher. And impending doom as they make their way closer to the fan. And they just start panicking. Their whole life flashed before their eyes. We're going to die. Make a long story short, they realize that when they burp, they start going down. So they save themselves by burping their way all the way back to the floor. In any event, for whatever reason, when I was thinking about this yesterday, I thought, this is kind of like life. You start off on the ground, and you sort of take off, and you're having, while you're young and idealistic, you're kind of having a good time, and you're floating, and you're doing well, and you're smiling, and you're having a great time, and you're relatively encouraged by the way life is going. But as you get older, and this is what he's describing here, as you get older, as you near the end, anxiety increases. Your stress levels go up. You're staring darkness in the face, and you're thinking about all of the things you've left undone, all of the mistakes that you've made, all of the regrets that you have. Your body's falling apart. You're not remembering things as quickly as you used to. Things aren't the same. You don't have the same energy levels. You have built up over time enough regret to make you check yourself into a mental hospital because you're so discouraged. You reflect on the things that you've said and the things that you've done, and it can be debilitating. And this is what he's describing here. And he says, if you remember when you're young that life stinks, okay? Or like the Jay Giles Band used to say, love stinks. When you remember that when you're young, okay, you might be able to save yourself from rising levels of anxiety as you get older. In other words, this is his solution. Begin your life by embracing just how bad life is. Begin your life by abandoning all hope for hope. Start life off that way. And perhaps you might be able to save yourself from countless debilitating disappointments. You want to know where stress comes from? At the heart of it? I'm not a doctor, okay? I can't give you any physical reasons why stress exists, but this is where stress comes from. When you feel stress, you know what you're asking yourself? You don't even know this. I guarantee no one in this room, including me until a couple days ago, ever thought of it this way. When you're feeling stress, this is what you're asking yourself, and you're probably not even conscious of it. You're asking yourself, how can I be justified? In any moment. And stress is your answer. I can't be. That's what stress is. Stress is the growing realization in any given moment that I'm not in control. That I can't save myself. That I can't justify myself. That no matter how hard I try, no matter what I do, this particular circumstance or this particular person or this particular addiction is outside of my control. How can I justify myself? How can I prove myself? How can I establish my worth in this moment? And stress happens when you come to the realization that you can't. That's what it is. So, according to the teacher, you minimize aging with anxiety when you accept the dark inevitable. That's his solution.